At least she didn't do anything with it, a play written for and acted by CFUW Nepean. In 1875, 150 years ago, Grace Annie Lockhart received a degree from Mount Allison University. She was the first woman to receive a degree not only in Canada, but also in the British Empire. Needless to say, reactions to this were mixed. It is now 1900, and Mount Allison has decided to have a celebration to honor Grace Annie's accomplishment. You are in the audience for this event. In front of you, with their backs to you, are women on a raised platform. They are guests of honor today, friends and relatives of Grace Annie. One by one, they will leave the ceremony to let you know exactly what they think about Grace Annie's receiving a degree. We have all already sung God Save the Queen in honor of Queen Victoria, and the ceremony is about to start.
Ladies, I'm Alice Lockhart, and I'm here today to help honor my niece, Grace Annie Dawson. Well, I guess it's Grace Annie Lockhart we're here honoring, because that's what she was known as. She was a single woman at Mount Allison when they gave her that degree that they're making such a fuss about. At the time, no one knew she was the first woman in Canada to get a degree. Maybe someone in New Brunswick knew, but I'm not even sure of that. After all, Canada itself was only 8 years old in 1875 and only consisted of 7 provinces. New Brunswick was one of the first 4 provinces, as I'm sure you'll remember, and that is something we can all be proud of, and we are mighty proud. And I guess I'm proud of Grace Annie. I'll sure say that I am. I'll say all the right things. After all, I'm just an in-law, no blood, and don't they sometimes make that clear to me? All this fuss about a university degree. Surely I'm not the only one who knows that it was just good old Mount Allison College back in 1875. It didn't become a university until 11 years later in 1886. A lot of these well-educated people, these oh so very smart people, forget details like that, forget things they may not want to remember. Oh, I can tell you a few things that the family may not want to remember. Things like the real reason Grace Annie decided she wanted to stay that extra year at Mount Allison, just to stay a little while longer. That degree was just an excuse. Oh yes, she got what she wanted, and she put a lot of people in their place. Oh dear, you didn't know? Well, I shouldn't say, but they're all paying attention to the ceremonies. It was a man, as simple as that. She had her eye on John Dawson, and 3 years at Ladies' College wasn't long enough to land him. So the chance to put in an extra year is just what Grace Annie needed. The degree was just a bonus. But don't tell anyone that I told you. I've said enough for now. I'd better pay attention to the doings. My own girls will want to hear all about it.
If one more person tells me how smart that cousin of mine is, that Grace Annie, I will spit. I know it's not ladylike, but I will spit anyway. I'm Faith Lockhart, in case you didn't know, and I might not have a lot of fancy education, but when I say I'm going to do a thing, you better believe me, and that includes spitting. I'm not denying Grace Annie's smart, but it isn't the book learning kind of smart I'm talking about. No sirree. I'm talking about getting the boys to notice you, getting all those lads in a froth. That's what our sweet and university educated Grace Annie was smart at. Go to a dance, and who had the lowest cut frock? Grace Annie did. Her mother, bless her poor soul, died when Grace Annie was only 9 months old. but I know she was just spinning in her grave when her daughter stepped out dressed like that. And Grace Annie certainly knew how to drop her hanky so that she had to bend right over to pick it up with some boy bending down at the same time and getting a good look. A disgrace. That's what she was. I was ashamed to be her cousin, and when I told her so, she just laughed. Even worse was the amount of legs she showed. Go skating with her, and she, one of the best skaters among us, always managed to fall so that her skirt came halfway up her calf. Halfway up! And didn't all the boys rush over to help the poor thing up? Shameful. That's what it was. All the young people from the church went every fall on a country walk, and there was always a stile or two that had to be climbed. Of course, we all had to hike our skirts up a tad, and by a tad, I mean 3 inches at the most. But one time, and this is not a word of a lie, Grace Annie managed to show her knee. Her knee! A trop. That's what I'd call her. Look at that graduation picture of her, where she's covered right up to the neck, looking so modest and sweet. Well, by then, she'd gotten her man, hadn't she? Now she's married that man, that John Dawson, a Methodist minister, and she's so refined and pure, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. I hear he has her doing some of the Bible readings in that church of his over on Prince Edward Island. I hope none of those readings are about how modest a woman should be. I tell you right here and now, St. Paul would have a few things to say about her, and none of them would be good. God has given her 3 sons. A good thing she doesn't have girls who might be as brazen as she was. I'd like to stand up here and let everyone know what I think of her. I'd like to spit at all of them. That's what I'd like to do.
I see all these men standing here honoring my sister-in-law Grace, and it makes me laugh. It was a different story 25 years ago, a very different story when she was given her degree. Really, in 1875, the shock of a woman getting a degree. These men ran around like Chicken Little or Henny Penny, that fairy tale character that said, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. You would have thought it was the end of the civilized world as they knew it. Oh, I can hear them now. What was the university thinking? Should it be closed? And should we fire the dean? What about their family? What were they thinking? Is her father to blame for this mistake, this sacrilege? Oh, no, not her father. No man in his right mind would allow his daughter to do such a thing. Then they blamed the New Brunswick legislature. There was even talk of an election being called over the whole thing. No one talked of anything else that whole summer. There were parents who wouldn't let their daughters even talk to poor Grace Anne. And they certainly discouraged their darling sons from having anything to do with that hussy, pretty though she might be. And at church, people changed their pews rather than sit next to the Lockharts. Ugh, what a tempest in a teapot. By the fall, when the Lockharts had announced the betrothal of Grace to my brother John, things had calmed down. At least she was getting married and their sons were safe. The whole traditional structure of life had been restored. Praise the Lord. I sat back and I laughed at the whole thing, at the chaos and at all the indignant talk. And then came the sad news for me. Mount Allison, or at least the men who were involved in running Mount Allison, had decided women were no longer going to be allowed in the degree program. Oh, the Ladies' Academy would still be open to them, and we could still earn a certificate of merit, but not a degree. That was for men only. The university would not be contaminated by the presence of females. Oh, that did make me angry. I had planned to follow in Grace's footsteps. If a woman could get a degree, I, Charlotte Dawson, wanted one. I had worked especially hard that last year at Ladies' Academy to make sure I would be accepted. But oh no, my goodness, no. Mount Allison would never make that mistake again. Wasn't I lucky, they said. And they didn't let a woman into that degree program again until 1882, 7 years later. No, and by then it was too late for me. Now look at them, all these pompous men up there preening and congratulating themselves as if they had handed the degree to her with their own hands. I could laugh all over again.
I'm not sure why I'm up here on the platform to watch the celebration of Grace Annie's accomplishments. I'm not family, just a friend. A long-time friend, mind you, but I'm happy to be invited. I guess, except for family, I'm the one here who has known Grace Annie the longest. I'm Minnie J. Steeves, and if you know New Brunswick, you know the name Steeves. Like the Lockharts, we're one of the families. You could be one of the Fredericton Steeves or one of the St. John Steeves. I'm one of the Sussex Steeves. Actually, I suppose I should make it clear that I am a Steeves by birth and by marriage. To be technical, I'm Minnie J. Steeves, but who needs to be that fussy? Grace Annie and I went to school together from first grade. Sometimes she was top of the class, and sometimes I was. In 1854, Mount Allison College had started a ladies' academy, and by 1875, it was the place for young women to go. Going to the ladies' academy said two things about you. First, you were smart. Not always a good thing, according to my Aunt Sarah, who always claimed that no man would marry a woman who was smarter than he was. And it said that you came from money, from one of the comfortable families in the province, one of the families who could afford to send their daughters off for more education after high school. Daddy said it also let the world know that you didn't have a man to marry, but at 16, we weren't in any hurry. Mummy thought the Ladies' Academy was all a pack of foolishness, but Daddy said I should go for a year, and Daddy was right. When I came back after a year away, wasn't I just the pick of the crop? All those boys looking for someone to marry had decided that the girls in town, the ones right under their noses, weren't quite what they wanted. They were looking for somebody new. And I was even better than that. They had grown up with me, knew what I was like, knew my family, so I was a safe pick. Oh, but I had been away. I was daring, different from the others, almost a little bit dangerous. Oh, yes, that summer and that year I had my pick. As Grace Annie would have had hers had she come home. But she went back. She was not there, and I was. So I picked Ronnie, third cousin once removed on my father's side. Tall, good-looking, taking over his family business. Oh, I didn't need a degree from a university to get what I wanted. I'm happy for Grace Annie, but I'm even happier for myself. So all you sweet young ladies out there, keep in mind that a year away does you a world of good. As they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And a year at the Ladies' Academy or college or university gives you a little shine, a little polish, a little je ne sais quoi, as my French professor would say.
When I told my husband that I had been invited to this ceremony to honor my cousin Grace, he was silent for a moment, and then he said very seriously, yes, Winnie, I guess you can go. I beg your pardon, I wanted to say. You guess I can go? I wasn't asking you, honey bun. I was telling you, but I kept my mouth shut. One thing I have learned over the years is that many things are better left unsaid. Now, I love the man. There should be no doubt in your mind about that. I loved him when I married him, and I still do. He's a good man and a kind man, but there are times when he tries my patience. Of course, he does not like Grace Annie. He does not approve of Grace Annie. He believes she has set a bad example for young women. He sincerely hopes that our daughters will not get foolish ideas from Grace Annie's accomplishments. He was much happier when no one was making a fuss about her getting a degree, being the first woman to do so. So I assure you, I will have to use every bit of tact and manipulative ability that I possess when I tell him that our daughter Maddie, our eldest, is planning to go to the University of New Brunswick this fall to get a degree that will allow her to teach high school. And not only high school, but high school science. To get a degree will be bad enough, but then to plan to teach high school, to teach boys who are really young men. And really, what can a woman know about science? Oh, the horrors of it all. One good thing about Grace Annie's degree, according to my husband and his like-thinking peers, is that at least Grace Annie didn't do anything with her education. That's exactly what they say. Bad enough that she was given a degree, but at least she didn't do anything with it. Well, gentlemen, she got married, raised 3 sons, all of whom got university degrees. What else was there for her to do in 1875? She might have taught primary school if there were no men available, or a school for girls, but only if there were no men available. Certainly, no business would have given a woman a job which might have used her education. Even the clerks in the banks were all men. So yes, she did not go out and change the world, start a company, build a bridge. Women were not allowed to do things like that. It's 1900, and we still cannot vote. We cannot own property without a man's signature. Oh, that's a topic you don't want me to get started on. And the things she did do were not talked about, like that scandal about that church John Dawson was sent to where all the money had vanished. Who got to the root of that? Unearthed the culprit? Grace Annie. Oh, I could go on and on about what she quietly accomplished, but my husband and his cronies do not want to hear about that. I know what you're saying. For heaven's sakes, sit down, Winnie, and listen to the speeches. You're just riled up because of your husband, and you're right. I'm sorry for going on and on like this, and please remember, I do love him.
In 1875, 150 years ago, the reaction to Grace Annie Lockhart's degree was swift and strong. Thinking about that reaction, we realize it was one of fright, of fear that the world where everyone knew his place or her place might come to an end. But when the skies did not fall, when their world did not come to an end, they relaxed a little, relented, and by 1882, women were once again allowed to enter a degree program. Today, we, the Canadian Federation of University Women, sit here proud and confident in our status as women with degrees. We owe a sincere debt of gratitude to this woman, to Grace Annie Lockhart, who, for whatever reason, paved the way for us, made it possible for women in Canada and the British Empire to attend university. With this skit, we honor Grace Annie and women's accomplishments everywhere.